Laziness is a silent thief. It steals your time, your dreams, and your future, one unproductive moment at a time. Every second wasted is a second you'll never get back. And while you sit there telling yourself you'll start tomorrow, someone else is out there taking action, getting stronger, building the life you keep saying you want. Here's the hard truth. You are either moving forward or you are falling behind. There is no middle ground. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic minds, wrote, "You could be good today, but instead you choose tomorrow." That was over 2,000 years ago. Yet people still make the same excuse today. You tell yourself you'll start when you feel ready, when conditions are perfect. But readiness is a myth. Every moment spent waiting is a moment stolen from your future. Let me tell you about Daniel. He had every skill, every opportunity, yet for years he did nothing. "I'll start next month," he'd say. Months became years. One day he looked around and realized something chilling. Everyone who once stood beside him had moved ahead. The job he wanted? Gone. The business idea? Launched by someone else. His potential? Wasted. But Daniel turned it around, and in this video I'll show you exactly how, through Stoic discipline, relentless action, and the mindset shift that kills laziness before it kills you. So as you listen, think about this. What is one thing you've been postponing for too long? Because by the end of this video, you won't just know how to stop waiting, you'll have the tools to start moving. 1. Hard truths about laziness and action. The reality you've been avoiding. Laziness isn't just a bad habit. It's a slow, creeping death that suffocates potential before it even has a chance to breathe. It starts with small decisions, hitting snooze, putting off that workout, delaying that project. Then, days turn into weeks, weeks into years. One day, you wake up and realize you've been running in place while the world moved ahead. Most people don't think of laziness as destructive because it doesn't ruin your life in a single moment. It doesn't knock you down like failure or rejection. Instead, it erodes you piece by piece. It makes you comfortable with less. It convinces you that tomorrow is always an option. But tomorrow is a lie. The more you delay, the harder it is to start. Every moment of inaction makes the action feel impossible. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic emperors, warned against this exact mindset. He wrote, "You could be good today, but instead you choose tomorrow." Think about that. 2,000 years ago, people were already battling the same enemy, the false comfort of waiting. The belief that they would start later, when conditions were perfect, when they felt ready. But readiness never comes. Waiting never solves anything. Only action does. Daniel knows this truth better than anyone. When he was younger, he had dreams that burned bright. Visions of success, of achievement, of making something of himself. He used to stay up late, mapping out his goals, telling himself that one day he would break free from mediocrity. But instead of taking action, he let life happen to him. There was always a reason to wait. "I'll start when I have more time. Next year will be different. Maybe when I feel more prepared." Years passed. The fire inside him dimmed, not because he lost his dream, but because he smothered it under excuses. The people around him moved forward. They built businesses, learned new skills, and took risks. And Daniel? He stayed in the same place, watching from the sidelines, wondering why success never came knocking. The truth? Laziness doesn't just waste time, it steals your identity. The longer you delay, the less you recognize yourself. The version of you that was once ambitious, driven, and full of ideas, that person fades. And what's left? A shell of someone who used to believe in more. One night, Daniel found himself sitting alone in his apartment, scrolling through social media. He saw an old friend, someone who had started with nothing, just like him. But now, that friend was thriving. Traveling, leading a company, and living the life Daniel once envisioned for himself. A sudden realization hit him. It wasn't that his friend had more opportunities. It was that his friend took them. Daniel had spent years waiting for the right time. His friend had spent years creating the right time. That night, something changed. Daniel got up, took out a notebook, and wrote down every excuse he had ever told himself. Then he crossed them all out. No more waiting. No more someday. He set a deadline. The next morning, he started. He didn't feel ready, but he moved anyway. And that movement, it was the first time in years that he felt alive. Laziness convinces you that movement is exhausting, but the truth is, staying still is what drains you the most. It's like standing in a river, watching the current pull everything forward while you sink deeper into the mud. The only way out is to start moving, even if it feels impossible at first. Imagine this. You're at the bottom of a well, deep underground. The walls are high and the climb looks impossible. You think, what's the point? I'll never make it. So you sit there, time passes, the well gets darker, the air gets colder. Every second of inaction makes the climb feel harder. Now, imagine something else. Instead of sitting, you reach up. Just one hand, gripping the first rock, then the next. It's slow, it's painful, but with every movement, you rise. And before you know it, light breaks through. This is the choice you face. Stay where you are or reach for something more. Epictetus, another great Stoic philosopher, taught that our biggest challenge isn't external, it's within. First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. Your identity is not built in your thoughts, your plans, or your dreams. It is built in your actions. The only way to reclaim your potential is to move now. Not when you feel like it. Not when it's convenient. Now. So, what's been holding you back? What dream has been waiting for you to wake up? Because here's the truth. That dream isn't dying because it's impossible. It's dying because you're letting it. And the longer you wait, the harder it becomes to revive. But it's not too late. It's never too late. If Daniel could break free, so can you. If the greatest Stoic minds of history could battle procrastination and win, so can you. The only question that remains is, will you let laziness write your story? Or will you take the pen back and start again? 2. Redesigning your dream. Reclaim what you lost. You wake up in a house that is slowly collapsing. Cracks spread through the walls, the ceiling sags, and dust falls from above. You know it's happening, but instead of fixing the foundation, you ignore it. You tell yourself it can wait. One more day, one more week. Then one night, everything crumbles, and you're left standing in the wreckage of what could have been saved, what could have been great. This is what happens when you abandon your dreams. At first, it's subtle. You put off that idea, that project, that goal. You say it's not the right time, that you'll come back to it later. But dreams, like neglected houses, do not wait. They deteriorate. And one day, you wake up and realize they are too far gone to rebuild. Seneca wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." The problem isn't that life is too brief. It's that we let it slip through our fingers. You had a vision for yourself once. A dream that was clear, sharp, and alive. But over time, hesitation blurred its edges. Inaction turned it into a distant thought, something you once considered but never committed to. A dream doesn't die in one moment. It fades piece by piece, each time you tell yourself later. And later never comes. Every person who has ever let go of a goal thought they had time. They thought they could return to it whenever they wanted. But when they finally tried, they found that they had changed, that the fire was weaker, that the confidence they once had was gone. But what if you could rebuild? What if your dream isn't gone? It's just waiting for you to take it seriously again. Most people think success is about discovering something new. It's not. It's about reclaiming what you already knew you wanted. The dream you abandoned doesn't need to be replaced. It needs to be redesigned. But that starts with clarity. You cannot chase what you cannot define. If your vision is vague, it will never move you. This is why Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself to do what is necessary, then what is possible, and suddenly you are doing the impossible. Stop thinking in abstract terms. Get specific. Instead of saying, "I want to be successful," define what success looks like. Instead of, "I want to get in shape," decide exactly how you will train. Instead of, "I want to be financially free," outline your path. You must write it down. You must see it in front of you. The mind is a chaotic place. If you don't give the structure of your dreams, they will dissolve under the weight of everyday distractions. Now imagine standing at the base of a mountain, looking up at the peak. It's so far away that it feels impossible to reach. You could turn around. You could say it's too much. That's what most people do. They walk away. They let the size of the journey defeat them before they even begin. But the Stoics would remind you, the peak is not reached in one leap. It's reached by taking the first step. then another, then another. You do not conquer a mountain by staring at it. You conquer it by climbing. Your dream is no different. It isn't something that arrives one day. It's something you build brick by brick, step by step. And here's where most people fail. They wait for motivation. They think they need to feel inspired before they act. But inspiration is unreliable. It comes and goes. The Stoics understood this, which is why they emphasized discipline over desire. Epictetus said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." You must act before you feel ready. You must take the first step, even when it feels small, even when it feels insignificant, because the moment you do, something shifts. The dream you thought was lost begins to take shape again. Think back to the collapsing house. What if, instead of waiting for the walls to give in, you had reinforced the structure? What if, instead of ignoring the damage, you had repaired it? You wouldn't be standing in ruins. You'd be standing in something strong, something lasting. Your dream is still standing, no matter how much time has passed. The only question is, will you rebuild it, or will you let it crumble completely? 3. Turning the tables on laziness. Laziness isn't just inaction. It's the silent voice in your head whispering, "Not today." It's the weight in your chest when you think about starting something big. It's the illusion that comfort is your ally when, in reality, it's your captor. Most people believe laziness is a lack of effort, but it's deeper than that. It's a trained response to discomfort. You avoid what is difficult because your mind seeks ease. You wait for motivation because you think it will make things effortless. But the truth? Laziness is not a lack of ability. It's a failure to see discomfort as necessary. Seneca, one of the greatest Stoics, put it simply, difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body. If you wait for the perfect moment, for the right mood, for inspiration, you will wait forever. But if you flip the script, if you train yourself to embrace discomfort instead of running from it, laziness stops being an enemy and becomes fuel. Matt learned this the hard way. He wasn't always the man who sat back and watched life pass him by. In his youth, he had an edge, hunger and ambition. He wanted more than an ordinary existence. But life over time has a way of dulling sharp edges. The fire inside him cooled. He got comfortable. He told himself he was waiting for the right time. Years passed. The right time never came. One night, he sat in his car outside his old high school, a place where once he had promised himself he would do great things. The weight of his inaction settled heavily on him. He thought about all the things he could have done, all the chances he let slip. The longer he sat there, the angrier he became. But something happened. Instead of drowning in regret, he let the frustration build. He let it ignite something that had been buried for too long. He realized something. The same energy that had been holding him back could be redirected to push him forward. He started small. The gym at 5 a.m. even when he didn't feel like it. Writing down ideas even when his brain told him he wasn't creative enough. Reaching out to mentors even when the voice in his head warned him of rejection. Each time he acted despite resistance, the resistance weakened. Discomfort, when faced head-on, loses its power. Picture a boulder at the top of a hill. At first it resists movement, but once it starts rolling, it gathers momentum. The hardest part isn't keeping it going, it's getting it started. This is how laziness works. The longer you sit in inaction, the heavier it feels to move. But the second you push forward, even a little, something changes. What once felt impossible becomes inevitable. Now imagine something different. You're trapped in a cage. The door is wide open, but you don't move. You've been inside for so long that leaving feels unnatural. You tell yourself, maybe tomorrow. You sit back down, convincing yourself that staying is easier. This is what happens when laziness controls you. The cage is always open. The exit is right in front of you. But you stay because you've been there so long that stepping out feels harder than it is. The Stoics understood this well. They didn't seek comfort. They trained against it. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. You may not control how you feel, but you control what you do with those feelings. So what if laziness isn't the enemy? What if it's simply untapped energy? What if instead of letting it hold you back, You use it as proof that you need to move forward. Most people think the opposite of laziness is action. It's not. It's momentum. Action is a single step. Momentum is an unstoppable force. The hardest part is the first move. After that, laziness stops being a roadblock and becomes a reminder, a signal that what you are avoiding is exactly what you need to do. Think about this. If you push a heavy door, at first it barely moves. But once it starts swinging, it doesn't take much effort to keep it going. This is how discipline works. This is how momentum is built. So today you stand at a crossroads. One path leads to more of the same, waiting, delaying, convincing yourself that later is an option. The other path, it starts with one step. Not a perfect step, not a comfortable step, just movement. The choice has always been yours. It still is. Will you take it? 4. Breaking free from the cycle of inaction. Imagine being trapped in a room with no doors. You scream, you pound the walls, you search for a way out, but nothing changes. You convince yourself that you're stuck, that escape is impossible, that no matter what you do, you'll always be trapped. But what if the walls were never real? What if, instead of being locked in, you had been standing in an open field the whole time, free to move in any direction, but so convinced of your imprisonment that you never even tried? This is what happens when you fall into the cycle of inaction. You tell yourself that you're not ready, that circumstances aren't right, that one day, when you're stronger, smarter, more prepared, you'll finally take the leap. But every day spent waiting builds the illusion that action is impossible. The longer you stand still, the more powerless you feel. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." The chains that hold you back aren't made of iron. They are made of thought. They are the fears, doubts, and justifications that convince you to delay. Most people don't fail because they try and fall short. They fail because they never try at all. They wait for clarity, for a signal, for some undeniable proof that it's time to begin. But that moment never comes. Clarity comes from movement. Momentum comes from action. Think of a car stuck in the mud. You press the gas, but the wheels spin in place. You tell yourself you'll move as soon as you gain traction, but that's not how it works. You need a push, a burst of energy to break free. It won't be smooth and it won't be easy, but once you're out, the road ahead is open. Inaction is no different. You can wait for perfect conditions, or you can start pushing now, knowing that progress, no matter how small, will create the momentum you need to escape. The Stoics understood this well. They knew that hesitation breeds hesitation, and that waiting only strengthens fear. That's why they lived by the principle of immediate action. Epictetus reminded his students, "How long are you going to wait before you demand the best for yourself? If you want to break free from inaction, stop overthinking. Stop analyzing every possible outcome. Stop looking for signs. Start with the next step in front of you. Imagine standing at the edge of a diving board, staring down at the water below. Your mind races. What if it's too cold? What if you land wrong? What if you're not ready? The longer you hesitate, the more impossible the jump seems. But the moment your feet leave the board, everything changes. You are no longer trapped in thought. You are in motion. You are free. That is the power of action. But what if you've been stuck for so long that you don't even know where to begin? This is where most people give up, not because they lack ambition, but because they feel overwhelmed. They see the mountain in front of them and assume they have to climb it in one step. They don't. They only have to take the first one. Think of it this way. If you're lost in a dense fog, you don't need to see the entire road. You only need to see the next few feet in front of you. That's enough to move forward. And with every step, the path becomes clearer. The real problem isn't the lack of opportunity. It's the illusion that you need everything figured out before you begin. But no one who ever achieved something great started with certainty. They started with action. Seneca said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." The fear of failure, the fear of rejection, the fear of looking foolish, these are all mental constructs. When you finally act, you realize that the things you feared were never as bad as you imagined. So how do you break free from the cycle of inaction? You stop waiting for motivation. You stop waiting for a perfect moment. You act before you feel ready, because readiness is a lie. action is what makes you ready. You don't need a perfect plan. You don't need to know every detail. You only need to do one thing: start. One push, one small move. That's all it takes to begin the momentum that will carry you forward. So take the step, make the leap. Because the only way to escape the cycle of inaction is to move, right now, exactly as you are. 5. The science of staying in motion. You've started. You took the first step. Maybe it felt good at first. Maybe there was excitement, a rush of energy, the belief that this time things would be different. But then, something happened. The fire dimmed. The motivation that once pushed you forward started slipping away. And now, you're struggling. This is where most people quit. They think losing motivation is a sign that they should stop. They aren't meant for this. That maybe they don't have what it takes. But this is the trap. The moment where people confuse temporary discomfort with permanent failure. Marcus Aurelius understood this well. He wrote, "At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I have work to do as a human being. Why am I still lying here? Am I made for pleasure? Am I not made for action?" You are not meant to be ruled by fleeting emotions. You are meant to act despite them. But how? How do you keep moving when the initial excitement fades? Imagine this. You're pushing a heavy train car on the tracks. At first, it barely moves. Every ounce of energy goes into that first push, but then it starts rolling. It picks up speed, and once it's moving, it takes far less effort to keep it going. That's momentum. Now put yourself in the center of this. You started something, you're on the track, but as soon as the resistance came, you stopped pushing. You expected motivation to keep you going, but motivation was only ever there to get you started. If you want to keep going, you need something stronger. You need discipline. You need to understand that your actions should not be dictated by how you feel in the moment, but by what you've committed to. Because there will be days when you don't feel like doing the work. Days when everything feels slow, heavy, exhausting. Days when your mind whispers, just take a break, just this once. And that's when you make a decision. Do you stop and let the momentum die, knowing how much harder it will be to restart? Or do you push through, even when you don't feel like it, knowing that every step forward makes the next one easier? The Stoics believed in consistency over intensity. Epictetus said, if you want to be unstoppable, practice with consistency. Small actions, repeated daily, shape your character. They knew that progress isn't about grand gestures. It's about steady, disciplined action. Now let's bring you into this fully. Picture yourself waking up tomorrow. The alarm goes off. You have two choices. The first is easy. Hit snooze, roll over, and promise yourself you'll start later. The second, get up even when you don't feel like it. The action itself isn't dramatic. It's small, but the message it sends? Massive. Every time you do what you said you would do, you reinforce your identity as someone who follows through. Every time you let emotions dictate your choices, you weaken that identity. And this is where most people fail, not because they aren't capable, but because they let inconsistency break them down. Imagine a sculptor working on a statue. They don't shape it in one strike. They chip away at it, little by little, each day. But if they stop halfway through, if they let time pass without progress, the stone hardens and the work becomes harder. The longer they wait, the more difficult it is to return. Your dream, your goal, your progress, it works the same way. If you don't stay in motion, inertia will take over. The longer you pause, the harder it is to start again. So how do you prevent that? By setting non-negotiable actions. Instead of relying on how you feel, build systems that force you to keep going. Instead of waiting for motivation, commit to routines that don't depend on it. You don't decide if you'll work on your goal today. You already know you will. You don't debate whether you should take action. You take it. No negotiations, no excuses. The Stoics called this preparing the mind. Seneca wrote, "Fortune falls heavily on those for whom she is unexpected. The one who is always prepared, who keeps his will strong, is never shaken." This means anticipating the struggle before it comes. It means knowing that some days will be hard, but deciding in advance that difficulty will not stop you. And now, you have to make that choice. Because motivation will fade, excitement will wear off. But if you build discipline, if you embrace consistency, if you refuse to let inaction take hold, then nothing, Not doubt, not fatigue, not temporary setbacks can stop you. You are not controlled by feelings. You are controlled by action. So what will you do now? Will you wait until the fire inside you reignites? Or will you become the one who fuels it day after day, no matter what? Because the difference between those who succeed and those who don't isn't talent. It isn't luck. It's who keeps going when everyone else stops. 6. The price of comfort over growth. Imagine a boat drifting in the ocean. No sails, no engine, no direction. It doesn't sink, but it doesn't move forward either. The waves carry it wherever they please. Days pass, weeks pass, and eventually it drifts so far from its destination that even if it wants to move, the journey back seems impossible. This is what happens when you choose comfort over growth. You don't immediately crash, but you stop progressing. You stay in the same routines, avoiding discomfort, avoiding challenges, avoiding the work that real growth requires. While you may not notice the damage at first, the longer you drift, the harder it becomes to regain control. Most people think staying comfortable is harmless. They don't see it as a choice that has consequences. But every day you avoid doing what must be done, you are making a trade. You are giving up future opportunities for present ease. You are sacrificing the person you could become for the fleeting pleasure of staying the same. Seneca once wrote, "It is not because things are difficult that we do not dare, but because we do not dare that they are difficult." The struggle, the challenge, the discomfort. These are not obstacles. They are the price of a meaningful life. But the real danger? Comfort doesn't just steal your ambition, it erodes your identity. Picture yourself 5 years from now. Are you stronger, wiser, more accomplished? Or are you still in the exact same place, saying the exact same things, making the exact same excuses? Because here's the truth. If you don't actively pursue growth, life will passively weaken you. Comfort is not neutral. It is an enemy in disguise. Think of a blade that is never used. It doesn't stay sharp, it dulls, it rusts, and eventually it breaks under pressure. The same thing happens to you when you stop pushing yourself. When you avoid challenges, your mind weakens, your discipline fades, your ability to endure hardship atrophies. Imagine a lion raised in captivity. It never has to hunt. It never has to fight. Food is placed in front of it every day, and it grows comfortable and complacent. Then one day, it's released into the wild. Now it must survive. Now it must fight for its next meal. But it has lost its instincts, its strength, its ability to endure the struggle of the real world. And so, it starves. This is what happens when you avoid discomfort for too long. Life will eventually test you. And if you haven't trained yourself to withstand the challenge, you won't be ready. Epictetus put it simply, "What ought one to say then as each hardship comes? I was practicing for this. I was training for this." You are always in training. Every difficult task, every moment of resistance, every urge to quit, it's preparing you for what's ahead. But if you always take the easy road, if you always choose comfort, then when the moment of truth comes, you won't have what it takes to succeed. Now put yourself in this scenario. You wake up every day with a choice. The first path is easy. Hit snooze, go through the motions, repeat yesterday without challenge. The second path, harder. It demands effort, discipline, and sacrifice, but it leads somewhere. It builds something. The question is, which path have you been taking? And if you continue on this path, where will it lead you? The Stoics understood that inaction has a cost, that the time you waste now is time you will regret later, that the person who refuses to suffer today will suffer more in the future. And the solution? You must train yourself to choose growth over comfort even when it's hard. You must wake up and move, even when your mind tells you to wait. You must push forward, even when nothing inside you wants to. Because every time you act despite resistance, you reclaim control over your life. Growth is not about intensity, it's about consistency. It's about showing up every single day and refusing to let comfort define you. Imagine a sculptor working on a masterpiece. The first few strikes of the chisel don't reveal much. The progress is slow, the vision is unclear, but with every strike, the shape begins to emerge. If they stop too soon, all they'll have is an unfinished block of stone. But if they persist, the masterpiece comes to life. Your life works the same way. Every action, every sacrifice, every moment of discipline is another strike of the chisel. But if you stop, if you settle, if you choose comfort, your potential stays buried, never fully realized. So stop waiting, stop drifting, stop hoping that one day things will change on their own. They won't. You must be the one to move. 7. The power of decisive action. The moment that changes everything. Imagine standing at a crossroads, two paths stretching before you. One is familiar, easy, and well-worn from years of hesitation. The other is uncharted, uncertain, requiring effort with no guarantees. Most people stand there for years, waiting for a sign, waiting for certainty, waiting for something, anything to push them forward. But what if the only thing holding you back was the decision itself? Laziness isn't just about not taking action, it's about avoiding decisions. The fear of choosing wrong keeps you paralyzed. You tell yourself you need more time, you need more information, you need to feel ready. But deep down, you know the truth. Indecision is a decision, and every day you hesitate, you reinforce the habit of inaction. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good person should be. Be one. You already know what you need to do. You've known for a long time. The problem isn't a lack of knowledge, it's a lack of action." Ethan learned this the hard way. For years he wanted to start his own business. He had the skills, the knowledge, the passion. But every time he thought about taking the leap, doubts crept in. What if he failed? What if it was too late? What if he wasn't good enough? So he waited. He told himself he needed more preparation. He convinced himself the timing wasn't right. Years passed. The job he once tolerated became unbearable. The life he thought he was building for himself remained just an idea. One night, sitting in his small apartment, scrolling through stories of people who had done what he only dreamed of, something clicked. He realized he had spent more time thinking about his future than creating it. He wasn't waiting for the right moment. He was avoiding the responsibility of choosing. And in that moment, he made the decision. Not just to start, but to never hesitate again. He launched his business the next morning. No perfect plan, no guarantees, just a commitment to action. And as soon as he moved, everything changed. The doubts didn't disappear, but they no longer had power over him. He wasn't ruled by fear anymore. He was driven by movement. You are in the same place right now. The idea in your head, the goal you keep pushing aside, the future you keep postponing, it's all waiting for you to decide. Imagine standing at the edge of a cliff, staring at the water below. You tell yourself you'll jump when you feel ready. But the longer you wait, the more fear grows. Your heart races. Your mind invents new reasons to stay put. The jump itself isn't the problem. It's hesitation that makes it terrifying. Life works the same way. The longer you delay, the harder it becomes to act. You build a habit of hesitation. But if you train yourself to decide quickly, to commit fully, something changes. You realize fear doesn't go away before action. It disappears because of it. Epictetus said, "How long are you going to wait before you demand the best for yourself?" That's the real question. How long will you wait? Every second you hesitate is a second lost. Every opportunity you let slip is one you may never get back. But the solution is simple. Decide. Stop questioning. Stop waiting. Stop bargaining with time. Choose now. Because the truth is that every life-changing decision happens in a moment. 1 second you are standing still, the next you are moving. And that movement, that is the beginning of everything. 8. When you stop looking back, you'll see the path ahead. Laziness doesn't always look like doing nothing. Sometimes it looks like dwelling on the past, thinking about missed chances, regretting wasted years, convincing yourself that it's too late. But the past is a weight you don't need to carry. Every second spent looking backward is a second stolen from what you could be building. You cannot move forward while staring at a closed door. The road ahead isn't blocked. It's simply unseen because your focus is trapped in what's behind you. People say they're stuck, but they aren't. They're simply walking in circles, retracing old steps, replaying past failures, and reliving moments that no longer exist. They keep searching for meaning in what's already gone instead of creating meaning in what comes next. Marcus Aurelius understood this deeply. Think of yourself as dead. You have lived your life. Now take what's left and live it properly. Let that sink in. If everything before today no longer mattered, if you had a second chance to build the life you want, what would you do? The mistake people make is believing that progress is tied to the past. They need to correct old mistakes before they can move forward. But growth isn't about undoing what has been done. It's about deciding what to do next. Every champion, every master, every person who has ever turned their life around has had a moment where they let go. Not because they didn't care, not because they forgot, but because they knew that dwelling on the past steals time from the future. People hesitate to take action because they believe they need a perfect restart. They wait for a clean slate. They tell themselves, once I fix my mistakes, then I'll move forward. But here's the truth. You don't start from zero. You start from experience. Imagine climbing a mountain. You make it halfway up, but you slip. You fall back. Not all the way, but enough to lose progress. You have two choices. Stay where you are, frustrated about the fall, or keep climbing. But what if, instead of seeing it as a fall, you saw it as training? What if every mistake, every misstep, every setback was part of preparing you for the next attempt? Seneca once said, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a person perfected without trials." Your past isn't your prison. It's your preparation. The failures, the delays, the missed opportunities, these weren't dead ends. They were lessons. And if you use them, they become fuel. Imagine walking through a storm, carrying a heavy backpack filled with stones. The longer you walk, the heavier it feels. Every step drains your energy. You convince yourself that you must carry this weight, that you can't move forward without it. Then someone asks, "What's inside?" You open the bag and realize it's filled with things you no longer need. Regrets, past failures, old identities, dead dreams. You've been carrying weight that serves no purpose. So what happens if you drop it? You move faster. You feel lighter. You see further. The past only has power if you keep carrying it. The Stoics didn't believe in wishing for a different past. They believed in using the present. They knew that everything before today was outside of their control. But what they did next, that was theirs to own. So if you've been waiting for a perfect moment to restart, understand this. The moment isn't coming. You create it. You don't need permission. You don't need certainty. You don't need to fix everything before you move forward. You just need to decide. Because the second you stop looking back, you'll finally see the road ahead. Every moment of hesitation is a moment lost. Every excuse, every delay, every maybe tomorrow is a time you will never get back. If you've made it this far, you already know the truth. Laziness isn't just about doing nothing. It's about surrendering control of your own life. The Stoics understood this. They trained their minds to resist comfort, to reject hesitation, and to act despite fear. Because in the end, your future is built by what you do today, not what you plan to do someday. Look at your life right now. Are you where you want to be? If not, the reason isn't lack of talent. It isn't a lack of intelligence. It's inaction. And that is something you can change, starting now. Not tomorrow, not when you feel ready. Now. You don't need a perfect plan. You don't need motivation. You only need movement, because movement creates energy. And once you start, momentum takes over. Start with something small. A single step, a single action, then another, and soon what once felt impossible will become inevitable. So take the lesson. Kill your laziness before it kills your dreams. Train yourself to take action, no matter how small, every single day. Not for motivation, not for inspiration, but because every time you move forward, you take back control. Now, I want to hear from you. What is one thing you've been putting off? What's stopping you from taking action? Drop it in the comments. Because today isn't just another day, it's your opportunity to finally move.